Yes, great. All right, folks, I will kick it off. Got a slide deck here.
See you. Okay.
We'll give it just a
Oh, yes, I will. Yeah.
Oh, maybe back to the first slide. Let's see if we can go backwards. Oh man, everyone close your eyes. This is the good stuff. We're gonna go back to the beginning. Oh yes, definitely close your eyes. There we go. Slide number 1. Folks, such a treat to be with you. My name is Quinn Tabor from Southern California. I was asked to speak on not the typical immerse story, which I have all those slides, but instead more so some of our learnings building a metaverse community over the last 5 years now, since 2017. In light of that, how I typically do these talks is origin story, and then all of the learnings and the hard work, and then kind of the invitation to you, the partnership, the way that we're lowering barriers of entry for marketers and digital strategists. But I'm gonna kind of flip the script around so that that last piece is the main meat and potatoes of what I share in my 15 minutes, so I'm gonna talk fast. Kick it off. I'm gonna do the last thing first, which is how are we today in 2022, a metaverse community with some of the highest engagement, how are we inviting brands into that deep connection? It's a couple things. When I pitch on it and I'm in sales calls, I boil it down to a 4-step process that we are doing actively with key brands, inviting them into our virtual world. I actually have a friend here from one of our case studies. We've been building a virtual hotel together as kind of this early pioneering metaverse marketing. What have we done together? We are building virtual real estate in our virtual world for free. That alone is a little controversial. A lot of folks are charging top dollar for a virtual plot of land, which I sometimes think is a little bit of a hoax. And then these big development fees and these big management fees, we're doing it for free. Another thing that we've done in our virtual world to work together with brands and big companies is then in our virtual world, we have close to 12,000 today, daily active users. We can then target those daily active users that are in our community and push them to the right virtual branded experience. So in the case of the hotel, we can find the right demographic. In this case, it's folks in the Pacific Northwest. Let's get those users to your virtual hotel, the West in Seattle. Or if you're, another case, one of the case studies that we're doing at our booth, a restaurant based on the West Coast. Let's find that demographic and create a deep, immersive virtual experience. Another one is our users then use those virtual locations and host virtual events, learn together, which I'm about to get into, and really get to engage with brands in a measurable way. So with our marketing partners, every month we report on, hey, we created the virtual hotel with you. How many users came? How did they engage? What did they like? What didn't they like? We can work together to shape that marketing so that it's really efficacious and ultimately drive towards ROI, or what we've been calling ROMAS, return on metaverse ad spend, because that's what really matters. What's the return on my investment if I'm marketing in the metaverse? I'll get into how in a second. That's what we're doing today, but now I'm actually gonna back it up and go to the origin story. I know I'm out of order, but it's intentional. This is the case studies. There we go. My story with the metaverse started much earlier. It actually started in 2015 and 2016. I was working for a large family office on their philanthropy and their impact investing in the Middle East. I know this is gonna sound a little disjointed. I was working in places like Lebanon with refugees, Syria, even Iraq. For 3 years, I traveled to some of the hardest places on earth and was obsessed with how digital innovation was actually going to unlock education for folks around the world, and in particular, the metaverse and VR. It really got my wheels turning, okay, here I am in Iraq. These folks, they want to learn English. They want to learn foreign languages. They want to learn together. They could never do that in the United States. It's impossible. How could technology and innovation create that pathway? For me, in my experience learning foreign languages and growing up overseas, language is oftentimes the key that unlocks visas, access to higher education, employment. So, in 2017, we created the first, to my knowledge, virtual world for learning.
One of these two.
I'll actually queue up a quick video and I'll talk over it.
You use these two. You get the mic in a minute from one of them.
So in 2017, we created a virtual world where anyone could sign in to either a desktop app or VR. We were named preferred partner with Meta a little over a year and a half ago. There we go, now we're talking. And any user, through either, once again, desktop or VR, kind of the metaverse in its largest umbrella term, could actually meet in our virtual world and meet with an instructor. And to that language piece, they could meet with a Spanish teacher in a virtual Barcelona and immerse in that foreign language in a way that the efficacy and the learning is completely heightened. For a lot of us, we know what's the best way to learn a foreign language. It isn't Duolingo or textbooks. The learning science says, burn that stuff, throw it out the window. If you want to learn a language, you have to go. That was my experience. When I learned French, I went to Paris. When I learned Arabic, I was in the Middle East. I was immersed. We've now partnered with 22 research universities that have proven learning in the metaverse is a real solution to a felt need. I know a lot of us, I've been sitting in our booth by the front door for 6 hours now, and a lot of folks are asking the question, what's the metaverse for? Like, what's a use case that unlocks something? Is it solving a felt need? Like, we could host events, that's cool. Is that a good idea? I'm like, yes, that's a good idea, let's keep riffing. What else could the metaverse do? And for us, we've been obsessed for 5 years, since April 24th, 2017, so over 5 years, with trying to solve that problem for users with the metaverse, language learning. That's a use case I could get behind. In the process, we built this community. Folks are creating deep friendships. I wish I could spend more time. I'd show you all the reviews and the testimonials of, oh my God, the metaverse is unlocking language learning for me. In the process, we realized our users, our learners, don't want to just spend time in a virtual classroom. They want to go to a virtual hotel and a virtual restaurant and a virtual comedy club and a virtual airport lounge. What if we actually lowered the cost for our learners and had each of those locations sponsored by a brand? Hopefully now it's starting to connect the dots. I know I'm talking quick. We got 15 minutes. I haven't even gotten to the main section. Each of our locations, I won't belabor right now, are now increasingly sponsored by the Westin Seattle. So our learners are spending time in almost like a reimagined digital replica of the Westin, deeply engaged, they're enjoying, they're learning about the history of how this particular hotel, it's really cool. It's built by the same architect as the guys that built the Space Needle in the 1960s. Like, so much there. Let's unlock that in the metaverse. Another one is this awesome restaurant chain on the West Coast. Our users are engaging daily for oftentimes 40, 50 minutes in these metaverse locations that's deeply visceral and immersive. But it's not because we're just saying like, hey, do you want to hang out in VR? No, we're going to do something that's useful, and we're going to unlock brand value in the process. That's what we've been doing. We've raised $12 million. We've got a team of like 21 people right now, about to raise our next round. Now, ultimately, I can't have this session be exclusively a sales pitch. I'm going to check my time. 7 minutes. So what I reflected on for this session is what are the tenets of developing and fostering community in the metaverse? Because there aren't many of us that have been doing it for 5+ years. A lot of startups are like, we got an event space, come, and no one comes. It's actually really, really hard. And you have to have an amazing solution to a felt need. But what I'll share now is, and kind of what I was asked for this session, or what are the tenets to metaverse community that I think we all need to really be studious over? And maybe even as I was kind of thinking on it this morning, I would almost call what I'll share in a sec the 4 trends that I'm currently pretty obsessed with. And I'm obsessed with them because for 3 years, the first 3 years, I was just thinking, man, if we could just figure out how to make some money in VR, that'd be amazing. But now that we have a community, it took a long time, and we're trying to scale that community, some of the trends in the metaverse and the best practices I'm recognizing are also some of the trends in Web3 and DeFi. And for me, it's a conversation I have a lot with other founders that maybe are just the blockchain founder or the NFT founder. Like, is the metaverse the same thing? Is it the metaverse and Web3, or is it the metaverse and Web3, or is there some concentric overlap? And what I've been excited by, because I am really passionate about all of those topics, is that our users are really informed, are really excited by the trends that are going on. And if we were to stay, no offense, a replica of Horizon's worlds, walled garden, play by those rules, without some of that Web3 ethos, we'd actually be massively missing out. So the 4 things that myself as CEO, and we've got a couple of my colleagues here on the product side, we're talking a lot about are how can we as a metaverse community that really is obsessed with our users start to incorporate decentralization. A year ago, I wouldn't have called us in any way a blockchain company. I'm like, no, NFTs will ruin it. Like blockchain, we're gonna bring the crypto bros. They'll like run savage on us, it's gonna be bad. But decentralization has a ton of power that I think is being unlocked right now. And I could speak for each of these 4 topics for a long time, but I'll give one example. For us, as we have these super users that are spending not just 20 minutes, like sometimes hours a day in our community, making friendships, hosting events, attending these awesome Spanish lessons in a virtual Barcelona, they want to stake in what's happening. They want some ownership, which doesn't mean like mint a coin and give them 5% and then we'll sell the rest and make a quick buck. We're really excited about what a DAO could mean for our community, decentralized autonomous organization, which once again, if you're a metaverse person, you might have mixed feelings. If you're a Web3 person, you're like, oh, I love this stuff. I think there's gonna be this convergence more and more. The DAO for us, what does that really mean? We've got town hall. We're trying to do it monthly, maybe even more often, where our power users come in and they influence. And they're like, hey, this is our metaverse community. We wanna weigh in on the product roadmap. We wanna weigh in on what brands you're inviting in. We wanna weigh in on the terms of service and the culture of our community. Let's democratize that and almost intentionally dilute my ownership as founder and give them ownership in those decisions. That's one thing that we're thinking and studying a lot. Another one, privacy. It's probably the most talked about term. I think we all agree. It's paramount. You can't mess that one up. That's really key. For us, that has so many examples. A simple one is with the brands that we're bringing on, we're taking a pretty hard stance that we aren't gonna harvest our users' data. We aren't gonna sell it, we aren't gonna give it to third parties. Like, yes, that's a great way to make money. We aren't gonna do it for a lot of reasons, call it principle, but I actually think it's because it's building a lot of trust with our users, a lot of trust. And if anything, something that I get excited by that's a little bit more Web3 of a concept is what if we encrypted our users' data on the blockchain so that they could own it in the metaverse? That's a reality that I'm really excited by. Third one that I'm excited and thinking a lot about, safety. So many elements to safety in the metaverse that are critical. Each of these I could like talk for a long time on. And if anything, ask y'all a lot of questions because we don't have it all figured out. Safety, one example, not picking on them at all. Roblox just rolled out advertising. Makes sense. We all know the lion's share of Roblox's users are under 18. In fact, the majority are under the age of 13. We all might have our own take. I think that's unethical. So on our end, from a safety standpoint, something that we're meditating on is what if we were to quite literally fork the code and create 2 separate virtual worlds, one for minors, people under the age of 18, that don't get advertised to, and instead have their own set of experiences and safeguards and restrictions, making sure the content is monitored in a way that would, if we're parents or uncles or aunts in this room, would feel really safe. And at the exact same time, have a virtual world for adults where they could get advertised to and they could visit the West in Seattle and see Nike in the virtual world in a way that is pretty persuasive. Last one, opt-in marketing. That's what we call it. How we're defining it internally is it's the difference between us forcing ads on our users, pop-up ads and retargeting, and you're seeing the same ad 14 times. You're like, gosh, go away. I know I clicked on it once and I'm getting it makes sense. But instead, opt-in, so every time one of us comes to Immerse, spends 40 minutes at the West in Seattle, this really rich experience, you aren't getting barraged on that Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. We're saying, hey, welcome in. We're gonna create a digital good. If you want, you can buy it, and it could either be an awesome piece of merch that your avatar could wear, or even better, let's go real world and actually allow you to now, because you've had this rich, immersive experience, buy a hotel in a Marriott company or the Westin. And let's track that. And let's show that return on metaverse ad spend that the Westin poured into our community, they gave, and in return, our community gave back. How am I doing on time? In 30 seconds or less. Oh, I guess I'm done. I will conclude with, thank you guys. Clearly, these are all conversations that we're having a lot of and thinking really deeply on. As I have surveyed our users in our community, I've seen that these tenets, these trends, these patterns are quickly escalating from a nice to have to a no, this is a best practice. Privacy it's not a nice to have, it's crucial. Safety is a non-negotiable. I think in the same way, some of that retargeting, the trends in marketing, we're entering a new paradigm where these users, the metaverse community, that now, depending on how you measure it, 300 million people, they're gonna set the rules for what marketing means. And it's an invitation to each of us. We could sit idly by and continue to force our ad dollars down Instagram, or pioneer in the metaverse and reimagine what marketing, I would say, should have been and what it can be. Thank you.